Now on to a fireside featuring the CEO of the most valuable company in Massachusetts by far, one that is situated right in the middle of the gene and cell therapy growth area, and Marc Casper, who's also a board member of Brigham and Women's Hospital, will be interviewed by Erin Harris, the editor-in-chief of Cell and Gene Therapy. Take it away, Erin.
Thank you. Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining us at the World Medical Innovation Forum for our fireside chat, partnering across the cell and gene therapy spectrum. I'm your moderator, Erin Harris, chief editor of Cell and Gene, and my esteemed subject matter expert guest is Marc Casper, CEO of Thermo Fisher Scientific. Marc, thanks for being here with me.
Erin, thanks for having me and doing this. It's certainly an exciting opportunity.
For sure. We have a lot to get to. But before we really do get going, I want to give the audience an opportunity to hear directly from you, in your own words, the perspective you bring to the dialogue on cell and gene therapy based on your role as CEO of Thermo Fisher Scientific and your professional tenure overall.
Sure. So Erin, thanks. And I also want to thank Mass General Brigham for hosting this incredibly important scientific conference. So the lens, I think, is helpful, right? Which is what lens am I viewing the world from? Somebody with an economics degree and an MBA in the most exciting part of science. And it's really been informed by my 25-year career working in life science tools, diagnostics, and contract development and manufacturing sectors of healthcare. And over the last 20 years of that career, it's been at Thermo Fisher Scientific. And for those participating today that are less familiar with the company, I'm not going to do a commercial, but I'll at least give you a sense of how we participate in cell and gene therapy, because it certainly will inform the way that I think about the world. We're a scale company with 80,000 colleagues. Cell and gene therapy is actually a meaningful and rapidly growing part of our business. And over 2/3 of what we do is serving the academic medical centers around the world, the biotech and pharmaceutical companies around the world. And within cell and gene therapy, our products and services would be involved in things like the GIPCO medium, which is used to grow cell lines and used in therapy development, or our Dynabeads, our magnetic bead platform that's used for the commercial manufacturing of CAR T cell therapies globally, or our purification resins used for the purification of large biomolecules, or our manufacturing sites. In fact, we have 5 sites that are used for viral vector production, and a number of sites as a large-scale manufacturer of biologics around the world. Would all be the context that I would be bringing today to the discussion.
Good, great. Well, we're happy to have you here and to bring your insight to the following discussion. So I want to first talk about innovation in the cell and gene therapy sector. So, every cell and gene therapy company, they're simultaneously challenged by the newness of cell and gene therapy, the field itself, with the need to move rapidly to bring innovation to the field. But the word innovation is it's very, very meaningful to the sector, but you have to be careful that it doesn't lose its meaning. So from both time and capital perspectives, I'd like to level set the conversation around innovation. What should cell and gene therapy developers expect in terms of quantifiable growth? So in other words, from your perspective, what does innovation actually look like from time and cost perspectives?
Yeah, so Erin, this is what an exciting time, right? If you think about what's going on, we've gone from a period where we now have, a little more than a handful of these therapies approved, and you have this incredible pipeline, right, of activity going on. Over 1,200 clinical trials ongoing, 150 plus in phase 3. So the activity level is high, and at least as how the FDA and the European Medical Medicines Agency talks externally, they're expecting to have a high level of approval each year for the foreseeable future, right? So it's an exciting time. There's a lot of funding because there's such incredible need from a patient perspective. So what does it really look like from the innovation side, and what's the expectation? I really believe that the challenge here is really about how do you manufacture this effectively, and how do you, effectively go from the research to the commercialization phase, including the clinical trials. And the way we're approaching or thinking about is how do you standardize that, right? And how do you take the lessons learned from the so many programs that, the earlier programs, and how do you actually bring that to bear so that you can make the process more efficient, make the process quicker, and ultimately help benefit patients, that are so desperate for these, potential therapies. So that's how we're thinking about the issue. But this is a super exciting time in terms of what lies ahead.
Certainly, certainly. We're promised here to talk about partnerships, so I want to make sure we, get right to that.
Sure.
When it comes to best practices in partnerships between cell and gene therapy developers and the service providers that they work with, what are the non-negotiable must-haves in order for cell and gene therapy companies to reap the benefits of that partnership? Likewise, on the other side of that coin, what are the non-negotiables that cell and gene therapies companies should expect from their service providers?
Yeah, so it is a fundamental question, right? And if I think about the successful partnerships, especially in an area where things are still somewhat nascent, right? I mean, it's not at the very beginning, but it's still in the earlier stages of things. Open dialogue and selecting partners, whoever you select, and somebody that you trust, that you're going to work very candidly with, because there's an iterative nature of the process here to get the best out of the service provider and make sure that the innovator is well served. Right? So that's going into that mindset where this is going to be a collaborative process to get the best result, versus some of the other modalities where you can say, what, we know exactly what we want you to do, service provider. Go ahead and execute this because it's well tested, proven, we've optimized it. Now you go execute the program. Here, a company like ourselves has had so much exposure to the various programs that are out there that we've learned a lot, right? And we want to be able to, iterate so that we can get the medicine to market as quickly as possible. And that takes an open-minded nature. I also believe that, the innovator, the client here, should hold the service provider to a very high standard, right? That it's not about lowering expectations, about being open-minded, collaborative, and when we agree together on a path forward, then the expectations of performance should be very high, and we work together to deliver that. So that's how I would think about it. And my experience here is that those clients that understand the difficulty ahead and the importance of getting it right, and they're rolling up the sleeves, working side by side, and we're teaching each other, those are the ones that get the best results ultimately.
Absolutely. Certainly at Cell and Gene, we do cover that, and we find that is transparency between both companies is absolutely essential for the best path forward. When we talked about innovation, you mentioned manufacturing, and so we would certainly be remiss if we didn't talk about manufacturing capacity. So, like I said, manufacturing capacity is a major concern for every cell and gene therapy company in existence. So, from your perspective, how do you help align manufacturing capacity with the pace of innovation? There's that word again.
Sure. So, one of the interesting things is, as a tool provider first, right, we've been supporting, cell and gene therapy programs right from day one, right? And one of the things that we saw was the challenge that there was not enough manufacturing capacity for actually the ultimately the scaling up of these medicines. And we made a decision a few years ago to invest heavily to build out that capability. So why did we do it? A typical innovator would have to wait and plan 6 months out in advance before they could get a production slot. And then would have to make an enormous financial commitment to be able to reserve the future slots for their programs. And what we looked at was there was an opportunity to actually say there's a better way and actually get to more where the large-scale biologics are today from a partnership perspective, which is the time to get a slot, the nature of the contracts are much more flexible because they're in the mature part of the cycle. So we decided to acquire first and then dramatically scale up our capabilities. And so we've been building capacity, both in the US and Europe for viral vector manufacturing, as well as in cell therapy as well. So it's super important because we don't want anybody to have to wait an enormous amount of time to really get a program into the factory. And it's over $3 billion of investment just to support viral vectors, right, that we've made. So it gives you a sense of the scale of what we're trying to do to support the exciting work going on the gene therapy side.
Sure. More on that. I wanted to get your perspective on so cell and gene therapy companies, especially early stage, right? They're known for their preference to manufacture, if they can, in-house and perhaps move toward partnership in the later stages. So when it comes to partnership in manufacturing, what do you recommend these companies do? Is your recommendation different from early to mid to late stage companies? What are those recommendations and why are they what they are?
Yeah, so, when I think about how we work with our clients, we actually like to work as early as possible, as opposed to the later. We work with many later stage opportunities, but the earlier we work, the more ability we get to know the product, to have influence on trying to optimize it, bringing in the benefits of what we've standardized over time. So those earlier work is ultimately where we think the partnerships work best. But obviously, some of these programs go extremely well and quickly, and then people move programs, whether it's in-house to a partner or from one partner to another. And we do many of that as well. So, I mean, that's the first way that I would think about it. From our perspective, what we're trying to do is accelerate the industrialization of cell and gene therapy, right? Moving to how you would think about, monoclonal antibodies, years ago, right? And getting it as quickly down the curve as you possibly can so that costs are down, the speed is much faster. And we're trying to do that by standardizing processing, figuring out what works better than others, and really make it a replicatable process so that the expertise benefits the industry. So that's how we're thinking about it.
Good. Okay. Given the wide and diverse registrants for today's or for this event, we really want to make sure that we're talking to everybody. And so I want to talk a little bit about hospital systems.
Sure.
So as these complex therapies are commercialized, the hospital systems, they are evolving to meet the needs of the patient,
Right.
and that's great. So talk to us a little bit about what a partnership with hospital systems looks like. So I'm talking like challenges, actionable and specific ways to overcome those challenges. And maybe then I'd like to go back to the time and capital perspective, which is, what should hospital systems be doing to ready themselves for cell and gene therapies being a major component of the future of medicine?
Sure. Yeah. So we have collaborated with the academic medical centers, certainly throughout the United States, in this journey. Right, it's an important part of it, and on some of the programs that have been very successful, at some of the major academic medical centers, our technologies have been adopted and played that role. How it has evolved, right, over time. And in fact, the timing of this session is interesting because yesterday we announced a large collaboration with UCSF, right? And so what's that all about? And this is in cell therapy, right? UCSF has a pipeline of activity, but they wanted to get more scale in terms of their manufacturing capability that would be available to the biotech community. So they co-funded with us a new facility that will be used for cell therapy work, and that facility is open up to the commercial industry as well, right? So it's kind of a partnership approach where the medical center is doing some of the funding, we're doing some of the funding, and it'll also support industry. And that is an interesting model to effectively take the next state of the art in terms of what's possible from investment standpoint. So, we think it's important because so much of this work is actually going to be done in the hospital setting, right? In terms of the actual activity happens, and therefore, we think that optimizing that and making it more affordable and effective over time is an important part of what our responsibility is.
Good. Okay. A lot of what we hear from, in terms of partnership, you're looking to partner with people who are doing something that you don't know how to do, and that are better at that particular thing than you bring to the table. So part of the reason behind, like I said, the partnering aspect is to overcome the you don't know what you don't know problem.
Right.
So from clinicians to industry to VCs, for example, first of all, what don't they know? Or what often do they not know? And then second, how and in what ways does a partnership help these various stakeholders to better perform their roles?
Sure. My experience is that our customers, they're unbelievably knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never presume that they don't know stuff. What we do is we're happy to roll up our sleeves and share our experiences and help, with being a sounding board, leveraging some of the things that we've learned over the ways, and also leveraging the scale of the R&D investments and the capital investments we're making across our network. And one of the things that we observed, was which workflow do you ultimately use, right? And it was very bespoke across each program, had its own workflow. And because of the deep scientific nature of our facilities that we have, we actually said, what? There are choices you can make that actually lead to a better outcome, and that you can actually optimize some of the workflows. So we decided to make very substantial investments to actually test which of the workflows are better, right? And to give you a scale, we're investing about $100 million a year just in the optimization of viral vector workflow. And that's because we have scale, right? We work on so many programs, we can make those investments. So we're learning, and we're learning with our clients, right? And we share those knowledge, and we don't tell our clients what to do, but we say, here's the data, here's our experience, and here's the pros and cons of the different choices you make, so that the client can pick the right solution for their product. And that's how we do it. And I think that's worked well for us over the years.
Okay, good. We just have a couple of minutes left. And before we wrap up our chat, I do want to ask you an important question. As you step back and reflect on what you've learned over your tenure and have been an active part thus far in, certainly cell and gene therapy, how do you see the cell and gene therapy landscape evolving in the short term, say, next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. So Erin, I'm so excited about what's happening and what's right in front of us. I think this is just phenomenal opportunity to improve patients' lives, make an enormous difference. And all of the brilliant work that the medical community, the biotech community around the world has put forth, it's benefiting society hugely. And so when I look forward, this is the time on how do we accelerate the pace? How do we do it efficiently? And the efficiency and timing is so critical because we have to have these medicines be affordable, right? Which is, it's driving down the cost and the timelines to make them affordable to benefit the patients that would benefit the most from them. And I think this is an exciting time for the industry, and we're happy and excited to play our small role in helping enable it. And I think it's super cool. So I look forward to what lies ahead and being a participant in supporting the efforts.
Good. Well, everyone, that concludes our fireside chat. Thank you, Marc, for your very thoughtful insight today. This was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate your time and the insight that you shared with our audience. And Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Erin.